I wake up every day and choose to be this way. When you work for other people, you have to fit within their box. I'm an anti-estate agent. I'm not prepared to throw good energy after bad. Neither of us thought for 1 second that it would become this. Oh, shut up. No, there was always something pulling at my gut saying, it's not quite right. I'm always the last person I look after. I'm always losing the plot. In fact, I think that's what makes me better, is that I'm not normal.
Today we have our first female guest, which we're very excited for. Kate, the agent Brookfield, sort of has like the boxing name ring to it. She runs her own business. Do you call it just Kate, or is it Kate the agent, your business?
No, my business is Kate Brookfield. Like my brand is Kate Brookfield, but the handle on Instagram is Kate the agent.
Yeah, but I feel like when I see the boards up, it's just the Kate.
It's Kate. No, there's Brookfield underneath it.
Ah, yeah. Okay, that's my eyes going.
But eventually I might get like Madonna, and I can just,
Well, it's becoming, I find, like its own brand. And I was thinking about it when you were setting it up. Did you have a vision for like what the brand was going to be? Because I feel like it's almost become its thing, just like Kate the agent.
It's something I'm always reflecting on, because I think I went into this with an expectation, but also with very little expectation, because I had a clear idea as to where I wanted to take this and what I thought was a very underserved part of our industry. But then I kind of just let it organically happen, and I think it's mainly just through having the creative freedom to play around with it and see how it's received. And frankly, I feel really lucky, because since I started, the reaction has been really, really good. So that gives you the confidence to keep building on it. And it's just organic.
So you weren't like wed to this is going to be whatever it is. It's just like start it and see how it feels.
The only stipulation is I'm an anti-estate agent.
Yeah.
However that looks for me, I am not your traditional. If you want a corporate experience with an agent, that's not me. I'm not going to turn up with a folder and deliver. There's a very specific way within in our industry where estate agents have a reputation, I guess. Like we have this joke between our friends, like you can walk around certain areas and you can spot estate agents walking around the roads. And I used to really, even when I worked in the corporate, I was like, if somebody saw me walking down the road and said, she looks like an estate agent, I feel like I'm failing, because I desperately want to be detached from that.
So did you do something different even then when you were in the corporate world? Were you trying to go, I don't want to look the same, I don't want to be the same?
I tried, but when you work for other people, you have to fit within their box, and that was always a challenge for me. But I was fortunate to build a very strong reputation alone, as who I was and working for who I was, which allowed the company to benefit a great deal from that.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes back to, every company is only as good as the people that it employs. The difference is that we have an evolving industry and a changing landscape, and unless you work with a company who is evolving with that, eventually big talent will leave those companies, whatever the industry is.
So on that note, and I don't want to talk too much about social media, because even though you do a lot and I love it, we covered this on a previous podcast guest, and at the end of it I just thought it's actually a bit of a boring conversation. However, in terms of what you're saying, in terms of moving with the times, for me, the way you've come across, it's like the most important thing is being yourself. So whether that is on social media or in person, you seem really big on like being authentic and showing the true you. So like how important has that been for you in terms of historically and now your brand going forward?
Oh, definitely. And I think, if I go back to how I felt in the final year of where I was working, and it's like this constant kind of friction of I desperately didn't want to fit in anyone else's box and do what they said anymore, and that cliche of turning 40 and raising young boys, and really struggling. I think if I don't do something now, I'm unwilling to spend any more time in my career feeling this unhappy and this stuck and this sort of jolted. So going into doing it myself, I've had to say to myself, I have to be 100%. I was always 100% authentic.
Yeah.
But the point now is that I have the freedom and the choice. And the choice that I make every day is that I'm going to, and it's a buzzword like authenticity, but I am going to be completely authentic because it allows me to, as I say, like have full creative freedom, and I have to just let it be because the brand evolves around that, and ultimately people buy into people, and my name is the brand. There's no two versions of me. What you get is me outside of work, in work, and it's all about happiness, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I know you say it's cliche, but I do see your authenticity, and it is very important in terms of everything we do. People see it, people like it, and I think that's why you're getting this following, because people see, oh, it is you, it's the real you. But with the freedom of setting up your own business and be able to be you, obviously, well, I have found there's the drawbacks of the responsibility that it does fall on your shoulders. How are you finding that?
That's something that's never unchanged for me, because one of the big parts of when I was even an employee of a brand, people used to joke and say, well, if you cut me in half, the brand runs through me. I've always been so incredibly passionate about my work and cared so deeply, way beyond really, when I analyse it, I gave so much of myself to that company and that brand. That hasn't changed. I'm just doing it for myself now.
Yeah.
And the rewards are so much greater. And yeah, it falls on my head, but I'm happy to take that because I'm like fiercely passionate about how I do it, and I'm so deeply care about the connections I have with my clients. So,
Do you think that's where you differ? Do you think you care about your clients more than your average estate agent?
I wouldn't look. There are some really good estate agents out there, and even still working in the offices on the high roads. You'll find ones here and there that they get their little fan club and they're following, and they have very loyal clients. But I think that there is a culture within corporate industry where it's very difficult for the people that work there to care as deeply as you should, because of the expectations and targets that are set onto those individuals and as officers. So you have this quite toxic culture internally. There's a thing called the funnel effect, right? So the funnel effect is where corporate agencies will take on mass listings.
Yeah.
Take on everything. Doesn't really matter, like overpriced, just get the client, lock them in, get the high fees, and then just work as many clients down and get them through the funnel. And if you lose some off the top, it doesn't really matter because we're so big and we're so powerful, we can just replace those people. And when I talk to clients who, I'd say about 50% of the clients who come to me have had a really bad experience previously with that type of agency. And when I explain to them the reasons why they've had that experience, they get it because they feel like a number. They don't get that personal experience. And, that just, again, it comes down to the fact that the people working in those offices simply can't deliver it. It's impossible to deliver it.
Yeah, and it's almost way too many homes to sell. It's almost impossible to manage. And when we were in the car recently together, when I gave you your lift to West Hampstead, you were saying like one of your biggest dilemmas has been, now people are following you, you're getting all these calls to say, can you service my property? And you were like, either the value might not be high enough, and you said, I feel like an arsehole saying that, or the quality wasn't quite what you want to put yourself with in terms of what you are selling. How are you finding that at the moment?
I'm having to learn. I'm by nature a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I think that you find the best people in our industry are that way inclined. And you don't want to upset anyone, which makes us by default incredibly good at what we do. But in terms of my business and the picture and how my business is, that again, as it's evolved and it's sort of gone towards that kind of more design-led homes, which is great. and it's sort of curating itself without me even trying. When people contact me, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and I saw their property details. It had been on with another big high street agent, and I gave them, a good 30 minutes of my time and talked them through the reasons why their property wasn't selling, but had to close with, all this being said, I'm not the right agent to sell your property for you.
And why was that?
Because I know what my audience expect, and I have to look at the overall picture of everything I'm selling at that point in time and say, does this slot in? Is there a window for this property? How much time and energy do I need to give to that client in order to find their buyer? And simply, am I going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
I think I'll know very quickly if I can or I can't.
Yeah. Is it that you can't service them right, or is it they don't fit what you're doing?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. It's a jigsaw piece, isn't it? Because it's like, I've told them what they need to do. And if they did those things, it would be an easier proposition for me. I could, because they've been recommended to me, and I don't want to let people down, but they also hugely appreciate my transparency about it, because I don't want to, they've already been on the market twice now with other agents, and nobody is telling them these things.
Yeah.
They just have to hear the truth. What they do with that is up to them. But ultimately, at that stage, with something like that, it's been on the market twice already, it's not sold. So there is a reason why, and that is for them to fix.
And in this scenario and others, how often can people solve their problems? Because a lot of the time, there's two things often. It is either one, they're priced too high, let's call it, or two, there's something within the flat that needs work or something being considered which costs money. So often it tends to be a monetary issue. Some people can make that change, some people can't. How can you help someone realise whether it's worth it, it's not? Do you take the responsibility of saying, look, you're going to need to spend 10 grand and then you'll get another 30, 40 grand? Like, how do you manage that process?
One of the big challenges I find sometimes has been that kind of secondary agent where they've had that poor experiences. The first challenge is somebody that has been promised a high value, and then from there, every pound they come down, they feel it as a physical loss. Frankly, it was only a loss if it was yours to have in the first place. So there's challenge one, is that you're working in this kind of very delicate part of the relationship where you know that they've set expectations on why, but ultimately it's said. And then it comes down to looking at the product. So can small things be done to enhance its saleability? Like if you've got a garden, don't present your garden like a cat litter. Like you can do things within this garden in
Low
order
cost,
to exactly, and then you go internally. Is it a case that they need to spend a Saturday just completely decluttering and just ultimately what you're trying to do is understand your audience and understand what they want to buy. And if you can deliver as close to that as possible, you've got a much higher chance of finding your buyer quickly and at a good price. And a lot of these things can be done without spending a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But then also you get down to the point, if you've got something that has to be sold to a first-time buyer, for example, the first-time buyers in our market really aren't interested in doing a lot of work. So if you're presenting a property into a first-time buyer's market that needs a good amount of investment, it's unlikely that it sells quickly or it sells for a good price, because first-time buyers are actually very scared of spending money.
Yeah.
That first big, huge, daunting investment, and then on top of it, they're thinking, new kitchen, new bathroom, new floors, new electrics, new plumbing, etc., and they get scared off.
Yeah, but also, it's a lot to spend. Those things that you're listing, that is nowadays, I don't know, 40, 50,000 pounds plus, and the hassle, and not being able to live there from the outset. So that's a real big turn off.
Yeah, and then if you don't do that, and if you can't appeal to that buyer, who have you got left? Well, you've got the investment buyers who look at everything as a business transaction and they're looking for meat on the bone. So if you're going to sell that to them, they are not going to pay an end user price for it. So you need to understand how much the property will sell for to that person versus if you spend X to sell it to them, and then you work out whether or not it's going to be worth your time.
Yeah,
But
completely.
those are the conversations that high street agents just simply don't have with clients. And it goes back to the funnel effect. Little time, too many listings, and it's just a case of throw as much at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Also, coming back to what you were saying before, in terms of what makes you different, and I think you gave some of the high street agents too much credit. I think it's because you care. And because you care, you're giving the good advice, as opposed to what you referred to before as there's a lot of good agents out there that are working at high street agents. They are good, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are good in the sense of doing what's absolutely best for the vendor. You can be a
Because
great
it's not
agent
their
and just be
company.
yeah.
That's what it boils down to. They walk out of the door, they've got a salary. You know, somebody like me and independent people like myself, we are fully exposed. We don't walk home with a salary every month. So every relationship that we have with new clients has to be from the beginning extremely transparent, and we have to know that that's going to result in us definitely selling the property, A, because our reputation's attached to it, B, because we have to earn money. And if something doesn't align, it's better just to cut the relationship and say, I've tried, we're not aligned, that's great, and I suggest you try this person next. Because
Have you got really good at that?
thankfully I haven't had to.
Okay.
So far, in terms
I wasn't
of
saying
like
in a nasty way, in
no,
terms
no,
of
no.
going.
But so far, in terms of like that first relationship, in terms of like I've not taken, thankfully, touch wood,
Yeah.
I've not taken anything on so far where I've had to end the relationship.
That's great.
The first year of my business has been a lot of learning, and I've also learned very, very quickly to have this mindset of I'm not prepared to throw good energy after bad. If one door closes, another two will open.
Yeah.
I simply don't have the additional sort of mind space or energy in my life to chew over things and let things bring me down. And also I've learned that because of the nature of how I present myself, I wake up every day and choose to be this way. And you learn to quickly have to be very quite confident in who you are. And it's a quiet confidence, like it's not like an ego. And I get really worried that I don't want people to think that I have that. But it's a
come
case
across
of
that way, don't worry.
It's a case of if somebody wants that corporate experience, they're just not going to come to me.
Yeah. I don't think
And I'm
people want
fine
it now.
with that. No, but some people do, and I have come across it. And again, it's like
In the areas that you're operating in.
I think one of the reasons maybe that what I'm doing and how I'm doing it has evolved and the reaction's been very good is because just by nature of the communities within the areas that we're within are very high creatives, and there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs running their own businesses, running their own brands. They are by nature, they are the market disruptors, they're the innovators, and I think that they enjoy seeing other people doing that, and there's that sort of feeling of wanting to support other people and embrace the change. So that's the majority, but there are still people dotted around who are maybe the odd ones out, you know. They are from industries that like the structure and, you know, the numbers and the graphs and the pie charts and the suits and, you know, and they will gravitate towards your big corporates. That's absolutely fine.
I think there's like a trusted element in the big corporate. Like they've sold X many flats and houses for this many years, and so it's a sure thing. I mean, for me, who I want to buy from, I probably want to buy from a corporate because I think maybe there's a bit more value sometimes because they're not serving their client the best. Whereas if I'm selling, I personally do not want to go anywhere near a corporate. I want to work with the individuals at a business or who own their business who really care. Like, I think that is so important, and things that we've done locally, that is my absolute go-to. Like good quality, personable people that really care.
But also, I think you'll find that they are the talented people that left the bigger companies.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see where the industry sits in the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, we're embracing AI. I still feel very much that the audience that I have will continue to evolve. And, you know, I guess like I'm at the point where maybe I do have a huge number of younger first-time buyers following me, but eventually they are going to move up the ladder, and you build that loyalty with people.
I'm convinced you'll continue to service them for a long time. Very, very,
Hopefully.
very, very convinced.
Hopefully.
Obviously, we were talking about you setting up on your own. You're now how long in? Year?
Be 1 year on the 1st of Feb.
Fine, so 1 year on the 1st of Feb. Now, from the outside, it seems like a key part of that has been the partnership and working with Oliver Kent and Vita Properties. How important has that relationship been from your personal point of view and on the business point of view?
So hugely. I mean, I had opportunities throughout my career to go into business with various people, and at every point, my gut instinct, as much as I was so unhappy where I was and I definitely wanted to do something different, there was always something that was pulling at my gut saying, it's not quite right, it's not quite right. Ollie and I, our careers aligned. We both started working at estate agents in West Hampstead and different companies, and back in the day everyone knew each other, and we were really good friends. And when he started Vita, he actually asked me to start the company with him, and I wasn't ready. I was sitting, nice secure job and thinking, I'm going to have kids, maternity leave and things like that. And he was very brave in what he did, and incredibly proud of him, and he's done so well. Being able, it was this one day where something had happened, and I was feeling really down and not quite sure where I was going to go next, and thinking, I need to do something, And I hadn't spoken to Ollie in ages. I saw him walking down the road, and I was in my car. I thought I'll just call him because he always cheers me up. Yeah. So I called him, and literally 2 words into my conversation, he said, "What's up with you? You sound so different."
Quick, he just got you.
He was like, "You sound so different." And I was just like, oh, here I go. I'll just offload everything.
Yeah.
Ollie's very entrepreneurial, and he's like a great ideas person. And midway through everything, he went, stop. I've got a great idea. Kate, you're strong enough to be your own brand. Let's do a brand collaboration. I'll help you. Yeah. You piggyback onto all of my operations. And it was like every part of my body went, yes, 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 yes. And I called my husband, and I was like, this is what I'm doing.
Just going for it.
Yeah. And then I just had to do a few bits in the background with him just to make sure everything was cool. And then it was just all systems go. And it was really at that point where it just felt like this is categorically it. Neither of us thought for 1 second that it would become this.
Okay. Well, that's the fun of it.
That's the fun of it. Yeah.
Okay. Where you thought it was going to go and where you are now, how does it compare? Almost which one would you have been happier with?
Having kind of the support of Ollie, and knowing that I'd spent the best part of, I've been an agent for over 20 years, 23 years. I was 15 years at my last company. My role was business development. So I knew that it was something I could do.
Yeah.
It was just that daunting thing of, is anybody going to want to use me? And it just takes, and the power of recommendation, it just takes that one person to believe in you. And then they're like, thankfully, my first property was kind of like my dream style of interiors.
Which one was it?
Buchanan Gardens.
Okay.
And then the lady I sold that property for, her best friend then wanted to sell her property, who also had an incredibly dreamy interior design property. And then it just started to bounce. And then suddenly it starts curating, just naturally, organically unfolding. And it's really, really cool. But yeah, I what expectation did I have? I guess because I'd never lent so heavily into the content creation and the social media side of things. I had literally no idea just how powerful it was going to be.
It's crazy how good you are at it in such a short period of time. I'm trying to think, how long ago was it we were at the sidings, and that must have been 6 months ago, more, and you were like, do this, do this, do this, do this. So you must have been less than 6 months into it, and you're just rapidly learning what works, what doesn't, and you've created this amazing following, and also it seems like you're transacting off the back of it. Cool.
It's when you enjoy something, you obviously, I feel like you learn quickly. I'm really lucky that I've got another Ollie in my life, my content creator who's Ollie.
He's a legend, by the way. We talk about him in the office a lot.
He's incredible. But, you know, I'd worked with some videographers and content creators previously, and there's a real stark difference between somebody who just knows how to film and edit versus a true creative who's behind the camera working with you. And I found Ollie through our local community Facebook group, and we just had a quick meet, and I knew from the minute I met him, he was my guy. He was so quirky and so cool and turned up, and we were just talking about so many things, and you could tell how passionate he was about what he did. And that mirrors my passion. And then just together, we work together, and we're always learning, we're always trying to change things. But yeah, it's really important if you want to do anything like this, you've got to have the right people around you.
Definitely. And I don't know how much of that stuff is you and how much is Ollie in terms of what you produce. But you are by far, for me, anytime I go on my personal or our work social, go on our Instagram, you're the only property video I actually stop and watch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I just enjoy it. It's like, it's you, it's vibrant both in terms of how you are, but then also like, I don't know, the colour grading or whatever Ollie does, it just feels like summery and happy. And it captures me every time, as opposed to people we just follow because we want to see what they're doing or we want them to follow us back. Like yours, I actually stop on. Like it's
Thanks.
great.
That's good to know.
It's good to know. It's great.
I do feel like I do have to keep evolving though, because you know it's a bit of a wild west.
Yeah.
Social media, and you know, I'm in a space where there's increasingly more and more and more content creators, which is fantastic because clearly it's where the industry is. But with that, you do find that people will start to sort of mimic you or choose to sort of run with some ideas you have, and you can't help that. And yes, you take it as a compliment because I know, you know, it is happening. And I just have to sort of think with my creative head of, okay, well, what's next? How are we going to change it? You know, and I'm seeing it in real time now, even in the last couple of months, how the things that Ollie and I are creating are getting slightly different time and time and time again. It's gradual. We know it.
Yeah.
You might not.
But that's just testing the little differences, I guess, every time. And we do that. Like we try something and some things go well, some don't. What do we learn? How do we improve it? And clearly, you're just constantly iterating it, and that's the goal, right? To just keep improving. There's no end goal.
Keep improving and keep delivering what people seem to, you know, say makes them happy. And you know, the feedback I get is really lovely. I don't go like, because again, I'm really self-conscious about people thinking that, oh, you know, she's going to get an ego, because it's just not my way. I'm actually incredibly self-conscious. You know, I don't go searching for the compliments. I actually find it really uncomfortable to talk about when people. Well, so it's like, yeah, I guess it's like, I feel like I have to just stay in my lane, just keep going, keep going through my lane.
So on that note, so I wonder how much of that is down to the industry and perhaps how it is now changing now. And I wonder if your comfort will start to change over time. Because I was thinking about it. It's okay. You're 23 years in, you said.
Yeah, I look great. It's Botox,
you look
by the way.
fantastic.
Thank you. Clarence.
Yeah, 23 years in the industry, and that I've only been working 12 years, and it's changed a lot in my time.
Yeah.
But historically, it probably hasn't been easy for women in the industry, especially to lead in the industry. And the people I knew in the early phase, it was like you had to be a bit of a dog-eat-dog character, a bit of a oi mate or boisterous female. Whereas now, it feels much more, you can be yourself, you can be true, you can be kind and nurturing. Like that is acceptable, and you can win by doing that now.
I mean, this is something I'm happy to talk a lot about, because I used to be known when I was working as a bit of a dragon, and I'd hear feedback when I was in my old company.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating that strong, passionate, ambitious women get labelled negatively versus their male counterparts, and particularly in still what is, the property industry is still quite a heavily male-dominated space. There's also COVID changed everything. And also, social media as well, to be honest. But the space, previously our industry was very much a space where you had to work long hours, weekends, be available at other people's free time because, I didn't really understand why anybody was sitting in offices 9 till 5 when all of us we were working pre-9 and after 5 and at weekends.
Yeah.
And then during the day, just like doing nothing.
So you're just there because
You're
have
just
to be
there. And that's another one of the big issues with high street agency is that you almost feel I like the only way I could describe it is like feeling like chained to a desk.
Yeah.
These companies pay huge amounts of business rates and rents to have these big visible offices on their high streets, and they have to fill them with people. If you don't fill them with people, it's giving the idea that it's not a successful company. They don't have any staff. And so the people that own these companies get obsessed with you being there all the time. It's so bad for people's mental health.
And it's not the best way to drive business.
It's not the best way to drive business. But COVID, obviously changing the landscape within how people work and work from home, meaning that more flexibility during the day to see property, it hugely helped. But it still hasn't changed the nature within how these businesses operate with these big offices. So there's an issue where you've got very good, and I don't want to say just always women, because it's parents, let's say. When you have to figure in the dynamics of children and school pickups and after school clubs and, weekends, when you have a family, our industry is not catering to parenting life enough. And you're almost just kind of discarded the minute that you start a family, because the bosses in the company know, oh God, well, this is going to become a problem.
Yeah.
And that's when you end up, like when I first started and had like the presence on social media doing this, the number of women around the country who were contacting me saying, you're really inspiring me. I really want to, could we have a chat? I really want to leave my company. I'm really scared, but I see, I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to have that flexibility. Companies they're not recognising that you're losing talent left, right and centre because you're just not being particularly kind.
I think it's maybe just like a small business thing. I don't know if larger companies can or know how to cater to that. I think it almost has to be small businesses. Like a lot of people I know, this is men included. So for example, a law firm we work with who's actually going to be one of our guests soon. They set up on their own, 5 of them. They've now got a team of 10 to 15 or whatever. But the dads will go do pick up and drop off and things like that. But that's because I think they are a small business, whereas a larger, I think it doesn't even need to be a corporate, but a larger business, it's you have to be here at a time and leave at a certain time.
But
and that means you can't.
But if you're running, if the visibility of your company is based on branches, there's not many industries that have the same sort of setup. Estate agents are just notorious for it. You can't open a shop, right, and sell a product in a shop with no staff in it.
Yeah.
And it's the same principle with estate agency. You can't open a high street office, promote this, all these properties that you're selling, but then there's no one in there.
No, but you can have 1 or 2 people in there, and the rest, I think, are probably better off elsewhere. Question, how much business have you got from drop-off and pick-up?
Oh, God, loads.
And how ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
Catering to your life as a mum and a parent has allowed you to pick up business. And that shows the importance in this world of being flexible with people's familial needs.
Yeah, but it's also a case of, how many connections have I made just by default of being able to just work in coffee shops that I want to work in, or, this is a people industry and it's built on connections and recommendations, and it's not. I don't understand. I don't understand how the people who run these companies are so obsessed with their staff clocking in and clocking out, sitting in offices all day. think it's because they don't trust their staff, and that's
Yeah.
you know.
But then what's the point of hiring them? If you can't trust your staff,
Yeah, I
then
get
literally
it.
what is the point? It's like you and Ollie, I'm sure, are not checking each other's every single move. You trust each other to do what you need to do, and then call on each other's help when you need.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, exactly.
it's that simple. And again, like Charlie and I, we've discussed this a lot, and this was, I think, probably the biggest thing was Charlie feeling more and more happy and comfortable that I'm like, yeah, I trust you, do it. Call me when you need, but like, you're great at what you do. You're better. He's way better than me at what he does. So, yeah, whether you're in or out the office, like Charlie and I will be messaging about ideas or whatever. It's like, I know he's thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I don't care.
Sometimes
Where
it will
Charlie
be
feels-
this hours.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, and more often than not, it's on the loo in the morning or in the shower. Not in the shower, just after the shower. Maybe sometimes during the shower, I just grab the phone. But yeah, I think it's just so important to trust people.
A few people I know who have also jumped in the last year to become independent. They were working for the big named corporates and like into the social media side of things, creating content, being encouraged by the companies to create content, right? But the minute that content goes viral, they start saying, you can't create content anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Because of the power.
What that gives that individual.
Yes.
That
And
is wild.
And one of my friends specifically had exactly that experience where, you know, in one way she's being praised for going around and creating content and posting about her properties. And she was a very successful salesperson, doing it all under the umbrella of the company that she's working for. Even on her own personal Instagram, it's like who I work for, mentioning on everything that she's posting. But then one property video goes completely viral and they don't like it. And they're asking her to take it down and change her Instagram account, because these companies have really, very surprisingly, not either know but refuse to deal with it, or have just simply not cottoned on to the power of it. So when their staff try to enhance, and use it and enhance it and work with the power of it, because the company didn't do it themselves, they get pissed off that the individual had success with it. And
yeah, it's just so weird because it's
weird.
helping the company push on. I think it's doing their job for them.
No, it's so
They're giving
weird.
them a presence.
It's so weird, but like you say, it goes back down to they don't want the individual to become too powerful.
Moving away slightly from property, so you're obviously an amazing mum. You are a fantastic estate agent with your own business. But what some people might not know is that you're a billboard underwear model.
Oh, shut up! No.
So I actually didn't know the full story. So I saw what you shared historically, and then I thought, oh, we have to bring this up. And I looked into the story of it, and it's not just that you wanted to become a Victoria's Secret model. There's actually a really powerful story behind it. It was a partnership between Bravissimo and Copperfield, who raised money for cancer awareness. And I just wanted to, if you're happy to,
Yeah,
and
very
I
happy.
just wanted to talk about how it came about, its importance to you, and sort of, what you learned from that whole experience.
In a nutshell, I had breast cancer at the age of 31. And I did the Copperfield campaign where I had to run around in my bra and knickers. And I got that because one of my best friends was the photographer of the campaign. So that was really, really nice. And I got to do that with her. I was, how old was I? Probably 30. I found a lump in my breast at 30 and went to get it checked and didn't have a biopsy. I had a biopsy, but it wasn't under an ultrasound, and they told me that it was benign. And then, was, busy with work and, being the dragon at work and just getting carried away. And then I got engaged. But the Royal Free was still contacting me saying, oh, it's time for your, because once you're on their radar, you have to go back every year, come for a checkup. I just opened a new office with my old company. I just got engaged, just booked my wedding for the following year. All the while, the lump was getting bigger, but I stupidly, naively, thought it was scar tissue from the quite invasive biopsy they do. So if anyone's ever had a biopsy, it's like it goes boom. And so I thought it was that. So booked the wedding, and then I thought, "Do you know what, I better just go to this checkup."
So
And then
you pushed to... Oh, sorry. They were calling you in anyway.
Yeah, I missed like 2 appointments.
Okay.
Because I was just so like carried away with my own life.
Yeah. And they said it's benign, so...
Yeah,
You
and
just-
but even though it was getting bigger, I was like, oh, it must be scar tissue because
Yeah.
they told me there was nothing wrong before. So then I go back in, and yeah, firstly they're like, oh, we can't. It was so established they couldn't actually get a biopsy from it. Then you need to have a lumpectomy under general anaesthetic. And I'm like, what? You're taking half my boob away? I need to go try on dresses. At this point, the C word was not even there.
Yeah.
And then one thing after, then they call me straight in after my surgery, like, yeah, it's bad news. It's cancer. However, we've never seen it before at the Royal Free.
Oh my gosh.
The only person in the UK who could diagnose this is a professor at Cambridge University, because it was such a rare cancer. She's on holiday for 2 weeks.
God.
I was like, great. And I just also just
your
booked,
mind
we'd
just
also
go-
just booked a holiday to Tenerife or like Lanzarote or something. They're like, yeah, you need to cancel your holiday. We're like, oh. And then they were like, actually, no, go on holiday, but we're going to do loads of stuff in the background. So then it was just like that straight away, like all the tests and mastectomy. Thankfully, I didn't need any chemo because I had, but it was basically a head and neck cancer that had formed in the breast. So I was able to just have radiotherapy, and they got me to my wedding with 2 boobs.
Amazing.
A boob that's made out of my back.
Really?
Yeah, when they first
That's
did it,
cool.
if you,
I didn't know that was a thing.
when you first did it, because the nerve connections are still connected, and it was
Yeah.
my back. If you like touched it there, you could feel it in the back.
No way. Sorry. I'm not going to get into the
So they-
specifics of how...
It's
like,
called
where...
an LD flap reconstruction. So what they do is they cut the latissimus dorsi muscle.
Yeah.
They don't disconnect it from the blood supply, and they flip it over the front
Oh,
from
so
the
you
back.
sort of, like,
So
they
I don't
move
have
it
a
around.
lat here.
Yeah.
It's so half my back is now on my front, including the skin.
So for a period of time, you could...
Yeah, I mean,
Touch
obviously
it and
now
it
it's
felt-
completely numb.
Yeah, yeah. That is mental.
Yeah. So I'm over 10 years in remission.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm 41 and I was 31 when I had cancer.
And so when the shoot came up, obviously you're not doing it as a favour because you're going to get £100 to go and take some photos. What was the importance for you of doing the shoot?
It was like a decade after my illness, and I think also just that because I was so young, and that cliche of young and running around having fun, not really looking after yourself and ignoring all the signs.
Yeah.
That was it, really. I mean, it was a lovely group of women who all had very, very different stories, but you know, the importance is just you got one body, you've got to look after it. I mean, even still today, like I'm always the last. I've got so many people in my life I've got to look after.
Yeah.
I'm always the last person I look after.
My view is perhaps that is a female/motherly thing.
Totally.
Sasha's like, you're so comfortable taking time for yourself. I'm like, you can take time for
Now
yourself
you
too.
get to feel guilty when you do.
I know, but yeah, I think maybe that's the male
The-
female imbalance.
The irony is that because a mother, in most cases, really needs that time more than anyone. I'm not dismissing that parenting for both parents is incredibly hard and difficult, but for exactly that
it's hard on
point
the
is that the mental load, and like Sasha says, like just it's really hard to remove yourself because you feel the weight of the responsibility and the children and the house and the life and
Do you get supported by your husband to do you? I guess you
Yeah,
get to do it a lot
course.
through work as well.
Now
even
more,
out-
but now more. Like, one of the biggest game changers of doing this and being my own boss is that if I feel that I need the time, I have the autonomy to take the time. It's up to me. If I know that I'm hitting a bit of a burnout, I will clear my diary for a couple of days. I will just go and, not make myself up for a couple of
Yeah.
days and just go and sit in the gym and work in the gym and use the spa and actually
Yeah.
look after myself.
And so you're
That-
comfortable and willing to go, I'm just going to take some me
You
time.
can't do that
No.
in corporate agency.
Can't do it in
And people
a
burn
lot
out.
of jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs, yeah. I have this, literally this coming Friday, I'm going to a men's group and it's like a 2.5, 3 hour thing. And it's like, yoga, swimming, and then it's like a group sharing exercise. This is my life coach puts it on with someone else. And I was asked, like, can I move things around and come to a meeting at 9 a.m. on Friday? And I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. I didn't say what it was, but I was just like, it's so important to take time for yourself sometimes. And that's not always just going to the gym. It can be other things.
I am still trying to be better at that. I try and stay consistent and do the same class at the gym on a Wednesday, but life gets in the way, and couldn't do them last week because my son had a hospital appointment. So, and then you lose a space on the class, and then you get back into the rhythm.
Yeah.
Before you know it, I've just my Wednesday, which would usually be my admin day and a couple of gym classes, is now, valuations and meetings, and then. So it's a lot of what I do is having to check myself every now and again, Kate, come on, because if you carry on the other way, you will burn out. You're no good to anybody. You need to rein it back in sometimes and
look after you, the
yeah,
person.
Do you
look after the person, not just Kate the agent. In true Kate style, I know you have to shoot because you've got a valuation.
Yes.
So I want to make sure you're prepared and ready.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for coming. And I'm supposed to ask this first, but to round off.
Okay.
When was the last time you lost the plot?
If you're talking about my actual marbles, this morning.
Yeah.
I lost the plot this morning regularly. I have 2 kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. My kids live their life as if they're like WWE SmackDown wrestlers. I'm always losing the plot. In fact, I think that's what makes me better, is that I'm not normal. I'm always a bit cooked.
Always a bit, yeah.
A bit crazy.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Give you a
having
cuddle.
me. Oh, these
I know, so comfortable in here. Thank you so much.